Okay guys, here we go with percent proportions. So we're continuing our talk about proportions, which you just reviewed. Remember that we solve them by cross multiplying and dividing. We basically cross multiply to make an equation, and then you solve that equation. But we're doing it with percent problems, okay? So our formula is P over W. Well, P stands for part, so part of a number. W stands for whole, okay? And that's equal to the percent out of 100. Remember we talked about percent just means out of 100. So our part is the same as the percent. Those are the same, and the whole is the same as 100. So we are kind of creating these equivalent fractions or equivalent ratios. And basically to solve these problems, we just have to go through and figure out what we know and what we don't know. There's always going to be one unknown. It might be the part, like what number is a certain percent of another number. It might be the whole, what this number is this percent of what number, or it might be the percent, what percent of, and then it gives you two numbers. So let's look at these examples here and see how they set up these proportions. So to find a percent, it's gonna look like what percent of 48 is 12? Well, right off the bat, I'm gonna look for where it says what, because if it says what, it doesn't know the answer, right? We don't know what the percent is. So right off the bat, I know percent is my unknown, okay? So I'm gonna write an X instead of a percent sign. X over 100. Well, usually our bigger number is going to be our whole and our smaller number is going to be our part. There are problems where that is different, but in these straightforward problems, it's saying what percent of 48. So we're finding this is our whole and 12 is our part. So you see part over whole equals percent over 100. The percent is the thing we don't know. To solve, we cross multiply, so we make that little butterfly. 48 times X is equal to 12 times 100, which is 1,200. And we're using our calculators because we're allowed that use. As long as you know what to type in, you're just using it as a tool. Now you've created this equation, well, 48 times 100. To get X alone, which is what we want, we have to undo that multiplication. So we divide by 48. 48 divided by 48 is 1, so we're left with X by itself equals 1,200 divided by 48 is 25%. Make sure, since it's asking what percent, we write that percent sign. If it's not asking for a percent, don't write the percent sign. All right, next example, find a part of a whole. So that's gonna look like what number is 15% of 80. So what number is obviously our X, but we don't know if that's part or whole. So let's look at the rest of the problem. Well, percent's pretty easy to find. It has a percent sign on it, right? So that's how we know percent is 15 out of 100. It wants 15% of 80. So when it says of 80, that of is kind of our clue that 80 is the whole number, okay? And the X, the unknown, is the part. So part over whole, part out of 80 equals 15 over 100. And again, we'll just solve it by cross multiplying. P times 100 is 100P. 80 times 15 is 1,200. To solve, we divide by 100. That's how we get P alone. 1,200 divided by 100 is 12. So you can tell it's the same problem, just written three different ways. But 12, so 12 is 15% of 80. It's actually not the same problem, sorry guys. All right, then we're finding the whole. So it tells you, but let's read through it. So 20 is 30% of what number? So again, We know we're not finding percent because it says what number. The easy thing to find is that percent. It has a percent sign. So we know that percent is 30 out of 100. This is, just like the of was our keyword about whole, is our keyword about part, okay? So 20 is 30%. So we're saying that 20 is the same as the percentage, which means that the unknown, the whole, is the same as that 100%. So 20, that's our part, out of the whole equals 30% out of 100. Again, we solve it the exact same way. We cross multiply. 30 times W, 30W. 20 times 100 is 2,000. We divide by 30 to undo that multiplication. 30s cancel out. We're left with W. That's exactly what we wanted. 2,000 divided by 30 gives us, in this case, it is not a whole number. We get 66 point, and that 6 just keeps repeating. So it's not a whole number, it's 66.6666, and we write that little line, remember, from our irrational unit. So these problems are pretty nice to you. They're telling you what to find. I still want you to practice what we did here, where we found our unknown and set up our proportion. Your Empower assignment, you need to do IXL Level 7, L6, which basically you're just practicing percent problems, okay? Watch the video as many times as you need. Good job.